Apex predators are usually on the offensive. They have evolved tools to kill. Then there are the animals who've evolved to escape, deceive, and even poison these predators. Don't underestimate the power of prey. These cunning creatures are all masters of defense. In fields and gardens, it's common to spot wasps and bees. But next time you see some, look closely. They might be flies in disguise. This isn't a wasp or a bee. It's a hoverfly. It's a species that mimics bees to fool predators, with relatives like these that mimic wasps. For hoverflies like these, the best defense is a good pretense. Without biting jaws or stingers, they depend on illusion to survive. Many hoverflies have bee-like stripes, coloring, and body hair, all to trick predators into thinking they're a dangerous snack to eat. Bees and wasps have a defense that hoverflies don't, powerful stingers that predators avoid. So the hoverfly has taken advantage of this strategy and evolved to be a Batesian mimic.
Batesian mimicry is where you're a palatable species, but to avoid being eaten by predators, you evolve a similarity to an unpalatable species. And that similarity is often morphological, so it's in terms of your appearance, but sometimes it can also be behavior.
For a hoverfly, that behavior can mean flying in a bee-like pattern, making stinging motions without actually having a stinger, and even moving like a bee. Like all good mimics, the hoverfly knows the most important part of the con game is confidence.
There's a certain swagger to many wasps and bees. They know they're well defended and they act like it too, so they'll move around and they'll quake their wings in a certain way. When you look at the mimetic hoverflies, a number of them also do that. They have this little swagger as they walk around, sort of a cocky appearance, if you like.
Some species even mimic the long antennae of wasps.
So what do if they're perfect mimics? Their legs are the color of the bee or wasp antennae that they're mimicking, and they stick their legs out in front and wave their legs like antennae. It's fantastic.
And when it comes to hoverflies, size definitely matters. In many cases, the bigger the hoverfly, the more convincing the mimicry.
The larger the species, the better its mimicry of wasps or bees. And the small hoverflies tend to be relatively poor in terms of how closely similar they were to the wasps or bees. And what we think is going on is that if you're a big meal to a predator, predators will take a very strong interest in you. And so if you are going to gain from mimicry, you really have to carry it off very well.
But despite their clever masquerade, many hoverflies can easily be distinguished from bees and wasps. Bees and wasps have 4 wings. The hoverfly only has 2, but can flap theirs about 1,000 times a minute to hover in midair. A hoverfly wing also has what's called a vena spura, meaning false vein in Latin, a marking along its length that looks like a vein, but is not. Bees and wasps all have true venation in their wings. If we look really closely, though, we can tell the difference. So how convincing are they to birds, major predators of hoverflies, and the creatures they're actually trying to fool? The answer may be found in the tiny hairs on the abdomen of the hoverfly mimics. Many bees and wasps have hairs on their abdomen that are patterned, but the patterns are only visible in UV light. As it happens, many birds can see in UV. So the hoverflies mimic these patterns that the bees and wasps have on these hairs. The UV markings are invisible to human eyes with 3 types of cones in their retinas, but visible to birds who have 4.
This means that to a bird, they are able to see this whole new range of ultraviolet colors that we are unable to imagine. And so it's possible that these hoverflies and wasps and bees have ultraviolet markings which are invisible to us.
So while the mimicry might be imperfect to humans, it might in fact be perfect to birds. And that's a good thing, because hoverflies, like their bee counterparts, are prodigious pollinators. As adults, their diet consists of nectar and honeydew. They're one of the few insects that can actually digest pollen.
They're as important as bees in many ecosystems, particularly as you go north in latitude or south in latitude. So towards the temperate regions, flies become more important as pollinators than bees.
Approximately 6,000 species of hoverflies encompass the world. It's a really big family of phonies. Hoverflies are true survivors, masters of disguise, and some of nature's greatest pretenders. As light and lovely as they seem, butterflies are masters of defense. It took millions of years of evolution for them to blossom into the complicated creatures they are today. Butterflies will entirely transform themselves 3 times before reaching adulthood, in a 4-stage process known as complete metamorphosis. These physical transformations aren't the hardest part of a butterfly's life. The biggest challenge to a tiny butterfly? Staying alive long enough to make it to their final form. Butterflies have some impressive tricks for staying alive. Their first line of defense starts before they're even born. Butterflies place their eggs on the underside of a leaf. Placing them on the ridges of the leaf's vein will help camouflage the eggs from would-be predators. But that's about all the help an infant butterfly is going to get from mom. Once they've become caterpillars, they're on their own. But these small arthropods have a whole buffet of defenses at their disposal. Some caterpillars, like this zebra, have spines all along their bodies.
So these little spines make them quite unpalatable. It'd be like chewing a lobster claw without removing the claw.
These spines also release a small amount of acidic fluid that irritates predators.
So if a bird or a lizard eats one caterpillar, they're going to have that sensation of burning, and they'll learn very quickly not to eat another one.
When it's not on the defensive, a caterpillar spends all of its time eating. It needs to build up its energy levels to begin its final transformation. These fragile-looking structures are critically important to the survival of a butterfly. Chrysalids can come in all shapes and sizes, every one designed to defend its inhabitants.
When a butterfly caterpillar has pupated and it's in its chrysalis form, they have to blend in because they can't move and get away from any predators. So they do this by primarily a type of camouflage. So it can be either the color of the chrysalis or the shape of the chrysalis. So some chrysalids are shaped very much like a berry. Some of them are shaped like the end of a branch. So they look just like an extension of the plant that they're sitting on. There's also chrysalids that are brilliantly colored, and they actually reflect light off them.
Inside these tiny vessels, a caterpillar is hard at work digesting its own body. They use enzymes to break themselves down into an oozy caterpillar soup, only to rebuild and emerge as a magnificent butterfly. Butterflies sometimes struggle to emerge from their capsules. This one is having a difficult time. His head is stuck. Eventually, it manages to break free. Once each appendage is out, a butterfly must get a good grip on its host plant. This step is critical to the emergence process because new adult butterflies are full of a heavy fluid. If they drop, it's a fall to the death. They use the fluid in their bodies to pump up wings. Once it takes its maiden flight, a butterfly is truly an adult. Adult butterflies have some defensive tricks of their own. They use camouflage to blend in and disruptive coloring to confuse predators. Some species, like the owl butterfly, use mimicry to pose as a larger animal than they really are, often making themselves look like a threatening predator themselves.
They have beautiful, beautiful large eye spots, as you can see here. So this eye spot actually looks a little bit like the eye of a predator. Instead of somebody coming along and thinking this is lunch, they're going to think, maybe I better run.
But even with all of these defenses, scientists are still discovering new adaptations that butterflies use to evade predators. It's recently been brought to light that many species actually have ears that help them defend themselves from creatures on the hunt.
Most people actually don't realize that butterflies have ears. But most butterflies don't make sounds, and so people haven't really looked for their hearing organs, and we've been discovering that some butterflies have actually really well-developed miniature hearing organs at the bases of their wings.
Butterfly ears evolved millions of years ago when nocturnal moths adapted ears to evade bat predators at night. After many species transitioned to be active during the day, scientists now suspect that their ears are used to evade daytime predators like birds. With defenses like these in each stage of their lives, butterflies are well equipped for survival. If a butterfly can maintain its defenses and live through the year, it might finally get a little time to itself to rest and start the cycle all over again. Yellow, red, yellow, black. A warning sign to stay away. A signal that danger has just crossed your path. These are the colors of the coral snake, a member of the elapid family of snakes, and one of the most deadly.
Cobras, mambas, kraits, those are elapids. They have small front fixed fangs. They're also far more toxic venom than vipers. And they are therefore the most toxic species of venomous snake in the Americas.
How dangerous is this coral snake? If a bite is left untreated, its venom can cause muscular paralysis, eventually leading to full-on respiratory or cardiac failure. Over time, predators like bears, foxes, possums, and hawks have learned to stay away from the coral snake by adapting the ability to distinguish its bold color pattern from that of less dangerous snakes. Those would-be predators have learned that if they are bitten by something marked yellow, red, yellow, black, they will die.
If you think of it like a stoplight, right before you stop, the light turns yellow. So the red and the yellow touch each other, the yellow and the red slow down, stop. So the red and yellow patterning on a coral snake tells you that same thing, slow down, stop.
In terms of survival, this coral snake's distinctive pattern has proved to be a perfect defense mechanism. Science has shown that a predator's reluctance to attack this coral snake because of its iconic pattern is sometimes imprinted in predators, even in newborns that have never seen one.
So there's a series of experiments that have been done in Costa Rica and Panama, where these baby birds that had never seen this pattern before would freak out and run to the other side of their cages.
But what about snakes that aren't so dangerous? Snakes like this scarlet king snake. With no deadly bite to speak of, it has no real way of defending itself.
So an undefended prey species is one that has no means of deterring predators from attacking it, whereas a defended prey species might have noxious chemicals or venom or something like that to keep predators from wanting to bite it.
So if this scarlet king is completely vulnerable to predators, How does it survive? By being a world-class impersonator. A total fake. A gun with no bullets. Riding the coattails of the coral snake, the scarlet king has adapted to look like its toxic cousin.
There's a lot of mimicry that goes on in the animal kingdom. They want to trick predators into leaving them alone. They try to fool predators into thinking, do you really want to take a chance? Are you feeling lucky?
Like the hoverfly, the scarlet king's crafty con job is another case of Batesian mimicry.
One type of mimicry is Batesian mimicry, where you have a dangerous animal, which is nonetheless a prey species, and it is sometimes mimicked by a non-venomous animal.
But how does this scarlet king snake come to mimic the coral snake in the first place? How does it physically evolve and change its skin patterns?
Snakes produce coloration through these cell groups that are called chromatophores. And the scarlet king snake and the coral snake, and all other snakes, in fact, use the same suite of pigments to produce their coloration.
Natural selection is the driving force behind this mimicry. If the scarlet king snake resembles a coral snake more than others in the area, then it will stay alive longer and will be better able to reproduce.
Then that resemblance will very quickly spread throughout the population, because oftentimes one animal will be so much better defended than all the rest of the population that quickly its offspring will come to dominate that species.
But as far as impersonators go, this scarlet king snake is far from perfect.
They try their best to copycat, but can't beat the original.
Like a cheap knockoff, it's managed to resemble the original. But a closer look reveals that this scarlet king's pattern is slightly different.
So the coral snake has its rings in the order yellow, red, yellow, black. And then the scarlet king snake has its rings in the order black, red, black, yellow. And that's like something that's very obvious to a human if the human has, both snakes to look at side by side.
And to remind us of this key difference, there is even a riddle that some use to keep themselves out of danger.
Red and yellow kill a fellow, red and black, friend of Jack, or venom lack.
As well, whereas the tip of the coral snake's nose is black, this scarlet king's snout is red. So what good is imitation if it is not perfect? Apparently, when it comes to telling the real thing from the fake, the scarlet king has its enemies totally fooled.
Predators apparently don't care about the difference. I did a huge experiment where I put out hundreds of clay snakes all throughout North Carolina. And if you have something that has a phenotype of a coral snake or a phenotype of a king snake, so the same colors but different patterns, predators actually don't care about the difference. Predators just don't have time or the cognitive capacity to perform that discrimination. They just do a quick snap judgment. They say, okay, that snake has the right amount of red and black, I'm not going to touch it. And that's all that engenders them with protection.
And while this scarlet king snake poses little threat to predators and humans, it has gotten by fooling many, pulling off a most daring and devilish facade. At first glance, frogs seem pretty friendly. There's a reason they're used as kids' toys in famous Muppets. But these frogs are not for children or adults. One drop of their venom can kill a person. They are poison dart frogs. They're about the size of a paperclip and come in a crayon box assortment of vivid colors. But their brightly colored skin oozes toxic venom. They got their name because indigenous tribes use this poison to soak deadly blowgun darts for hunting. But the frogs don't use it for hunting. They use it solely to defend themselves against predators.
The toxins help protect the frog. When a predator comes along and tries to eat it, the toxins can actually paralyze or even kill the predator that's trying to come at it.
The toxin is called lipophilic alkaloid. It kills by going straight to the muscles, stopping them from flexing. This means when it gets to critical muscles like the heart and the diaphragm, the victim can't breathe and blood can't flow. Scientists aren't sure where the poison dart frogs get this venom in the first place, They think that the frog's poison is created by eating a specific type of native arthropod, since frogs raised in captivity never developed the poison. But the frogs would rather their enemies never even try it. That's where this incredible coloring comes in. Poison dart frogs come in a rainbow's worth of colors. It changes depending on where exactly the frog lives. The coloring serves as a warning to predators that they're deadly, so stay away.
These frogs evolved this bright coloration to advertise the fact that they're very well defended. There have been a number of experiments done by other researchers where they have put out replicas of frogs of various color patterns, and they've shown that if you have the right color pattern that matches the local morph of poison frog, then you're well defended from predators.
Certain poison dart frogs have strange, unique patterns as well. That's also to help them hide from predators by making their features difficult to distinguish.
Frogs are a master of breaking up their facial features. They can have stripes across their eyes, they can have bands that run down the length of their head and down their back, and this helps to break up their characteristic face features, making it difficult for things like birds and snakes to recognize them.
There are 100 different species of poison dart frogs, but this one is the most deadly, the golden poison dart frog. In fact, it's considered one of the most poisonous animals on Earth.
The golden poison dart frog is from the Amazonian rainforest in Colombia. It's isolated to about 5 locations, and it's pretty crazy because it has enough poison in it to kill 15 to 20 humans, just one frog.
This incredible defense system seems to be working quite well. Only one snake has come up with immunity to the venom. These frogs are nowhere near as innocent as they look. They may be little, but they pack a lethal punch that makes predators beware. Staying alive is job one for these masters of defense. With clever adaptations like mimicry and poison on their side, they continue to outwit predators to survive.